Do you like aliens, UFOs, cryptids, and the supernatural?
What about self-defecating humor?
Actually, it's self-deprecating humor.
Well, you may both be right. Alien Theorist Theorizing is a comedy podcast that examines cases like
Roswell, Bigfoot, Dyatlov Pass, or the Atacama alien.
Was that little pickle baby that was found at Chili's?
It was alien remains found in Chile. We also explore the minds of some of the UFO community's best.
We talk crop circles with Freddie Silva.
And we explore the current state of UFO disclosure
with my man, Richard Dolan.
If any of these topics pique your interest, grab a beer and come hang out and theorize with some not-so-sober, like-minded weirdos.
As we wade through the BS and get inspired by the possibilities.
New episodes every Friday. Subscribe to Alien Theorist Theorizing free anywhere you find podcasts or go to alientheorists.com.
The Jeep Wrangler 4xE. It's electrified. So you can boogie woogie woogie up a mountain, over creeks, or boogie woogie woogie through a desert where you get bit by a pit viper. So you boogie woogie woogie back to camp and ask your friends if they'll suck the snake venom out. When they say no, you boogie woogie woogie to the nearest hospital for a dose of anti-venom and boogie woogie woogie your way to a full recovery. The electrified Jeep Wrangler 4xE. Learn more at Jeep.com. Jeep is a registered trademark of FCA US LLC.
And now a word from our sponsor, IBM.
Today, people expect government services to be just a click away, putting pressure on federal agencies to keep up. Enter IBM. With decades of government experience, IBM can help transform how work gets done through data, AI, and intelligent automation. And now, with IBM's acquisition of Octo, that digital transformation expertise goes even deeper. Let's create new ways for government to do business. Learn how at ibm.com/government. IBM, let's create.
Was a mass that was about 2 feet above the road, and it was rust color and grayish, but real fuzzy around the outside, like muted, washed out. So it was a form the size of an adult torso, with no head, arms, or legs, but real muted in colors and going, like I said, so fast across the road that, right across the road like that.
Welcome to Bigfoot Society. In this episode, 2 passengers in Mississippi see a creature that defies understanding. What was it that they saw alongside the road that day? An illusion or something else? Find out on this episode of Bigfoot Society. When you were talking to me off camera earlier and on Facebook, you had mentioned another thing, and this is a totally left-hand turn out of Bigfoot territory, but listeners will find it interesting because of interviews I've had in the past before. And you've had an interesting sighting of another creature down in Mississippi. And do you mind sharing about that?
Sure. You're right with it being a left turn. So I'll set up the situation or what was going on. I was driving with my husband from Minnesota down towards Mobile, Alabama, on January 1st. And we had stayed in a hotel it was a 2-day trip. So the first night we stayed in a hotel, and then we woke up early in the morning and then began our drive to head to Mobile. And we were, the sun had come up, and the morning kind of fog had lifted, and we were in Mississippi. And I can't tell you the exact pinpoint location. I just know that we were about 50 miles northwest of Philadelphia, Mississippi. And what I had done when we left our hotel that morning, I was driving, is I just put our destination into GPS on my phone, and I was following that. And we were on a 2-lane road heading southeast. And the fog had lifted. It was 7:25 in the morning, because when this happened, I looked at the clock to see what time it was, just out of curiosity. And there was morning dew kind of, or, all the dampness from the fog that happens down in that area in the winter times. There was like morning dew on all the branches of all the trees. And we were going through it was kind of a lowland area, and this 2-lane road, on the east side of the road, there wasn't much shoulder, it seemed like, on this road. I'm used to a bit more shoulder on a road, but the road kind of dropped off and went down 10 to 20 feet down to the forest floor where it was flat, and there wasn't much greenery growing because of the time of year, being January. So the sun was coming up, the fog had lifted, the trees were sparkling with this morning dew. It was really pretty. And my husband was riding in the passenger seat, and he's never seen anything that I would call out of the ordinary or paranormal or cryptid or anything like that. And he's very gracious and listening with me when I listen to podcasts and things, but it's not really his deal. And I'm driving, and something crossed the road in front of us, and it went from left to right, so it went from east to west, and it went across the road so fast that he saw it the entire way. He saw it come across the road from left to right, so from east to west, he saw it. It was maybe 50 yards in front of us. I was going 60 miles an hour, and this, I'm going to call it an entity, and I'll describe it in a minute here. It crossed the road, and it crossed the road. I'm going to make a noise to share with the audience how quickly this thing crossed the road. And it crossed the road like zoom, like that fast, across a 2-lane road from left to right. And where I saw it first was in the middle of my lane as it was heading towards the right side of the road, heading towards the west. He saw it the entire way. So what I think happened is I blinked at that moment when it started across the road, and it was like I blinked and it was already in front of our vehicle in my lane and heading off the side of the road. And I noticed when it crossed the road that there was a driveway on the right-hand side of the road, and I have to describe what the layout of that side of the road was so that it helps as I finish telling the story. On the left, the road dropped down, or on the east side of the road, it dropped down about 10 to 20 feet, and it leveled off flat into lowland, swampy wood area. And on the west side of the road, or the right side of the road, there was overgrown vines and different type of greenery alongside the road that might have grown over a fence that might have been there years ago, but it was very thick and you couldn't really see beyond it. And where this entity crossed the road, there was a driveway on the west side of the road, a gravel driveway, very narrow. And these weeds and vines and bushes, whatever they were, grew real heavy right up until the driveway. And the driveway was super narrow. And on the other side of the driveway, as we're driving, again, this greenery and bushes and vines continued. So once we passed that driveway, I looked as we were passing the driveway, but once we got past that little opening, I couldn't see back to see what I had seen in that driveway. So I'll get back now and talk about the entity and what we saw. So, the sun is shining, the fog is lifted, the branches are glistening with the moisture that's on them and the sun that's hitting them. And I'm thinking, this is really pretty. It is lowlands, and it is in the middle of really a low populated area in Mississippi. And all of a sudden this entity crossed the road. And what was confusing for me in the moment was I've seen animals cross the road. I've hunted deer my entire life. I've seen dogs run, deer run, bears, wolves. I've seen animals running across a road or running in front of me, and you'll see a neck and a head and you'll see legs running. What I saw, the same thing my husband saw, was a mass that was about 2 feet above the road, and it was rust color, kind of, and grayish, but real fuzzy around the outside, like muted, washed out. So it was a form the size of an adult torso, with no head, arms, or legs, but real muted in colors and going, like I said, so fast across the road that, right across the road like that, that I saw it in front of me in my lane, and then I saw it go across into that driveway where it disappeared from sight, and we're approaching that driveway. And as we went by at 60, I looked down that driveway, and I'll explain what I saw in a moment. I said to my husband, "What the F was that?" And he said, and he doesn't swear, he said, "Exactly. What the F was that?" And I said, Did you look down the driveway? Because I was driving and I saw it hit that driveway or go down that driveway. And I turned and looked to see if I could see. I wanted to see like a dog standing there or a deer or something to tell me I didn't, like, something to make sense of what I saw. But I know what I saw in that mass moving across the road so quickly was no arms, no legs, no neck, no head. And it was a very smooth glide across the road or flying across the road. It was substantial in size. So when I looked down the driveway, I asked him, "Did you look on the driveway?" And he said, "No." And I'm driving, and he said, "Go back." And I said, "No effing way am I going back." Because when I looked down the driveway, what I saw, I didn't want to go back to. I did not want to turn around and go back. I said, "I am not going back. We are driving on." And so we spent the next few hours talking about what we saw, and I kept asking him because he has not had experiences, and he's always, been a good sport and listening.
Stay tuned for more Bigfoot Society. We'll be right back after these messages.
92% of households that start the year with Peloton are still active a year later.
92% because of a bike?
Not just bikes. We also make treadmills and rowers.
Oh, let me guess, for elite athletes only, right?
Nope. It doesn't matter if you're an avid exerciser or new to working out. Peloton can help you achieve your fitness goals. 92% stick with it. So can you. Try Peloton bikes, tread, or row risk-free with a 30-day home trial. New members only. Not available in remote locations. See additional terms at onepeloton.com/home-trial.
I kept asking him, "Tell me again what you saw. Be very detailed. Explain what you saw." And what he saw crossing the road is what I explained to you, the same thing that I saw. And so for me, there was a little peace of mind that there was somebody with me that saw what I saw. But he did not turn his head and look down that driveway, and I did. And when I looked down that driveway about 10 yards or less beyond that vine, thick hedgerow, whatever it was, weeds, grass, bushes, about 10 yards beyond that, in this gravel driveway, when I went past, what I saw was two extremely skinny, bluish, grayish, what looked like legs, but they were very long. Like very long, meaning they would belong on a very super skinny NBA player that might have been 7 feet tall. But we're talking very skinny. Like skeletal skinny. And the color, I was describing to my husband, the color of the legs, it looked like stonewashed blue jeans from back in the 80s. That color, light bluish gray. And because I was going 60 miles an hour and this driveway was narrow, I saw this image, and I'll explain a little bit more about it. And we kept driving, and I kept trying to process what it was I saw. And it was just legs, and on top of the legs there was a red, if you can imagine taking a red handkerchief and tying it around your waist, maybe making it into more of a rope shape and tying it around your waist, like red and a little puffy, or taking a sweatshirt and rolling it into something and tying that around your waist, or a t-shirt. But there was something red right at the top of what should have been a torso. It was just a blur of red. But there was no upper torso. It was just these long, skinny legs. And it just didn't make any sense to me because what I saw crossing the road was this mass. And I described that. And then what I saw standing in the driveway as we went past was not the mass. It was these legs with red at the top of the legs, like where the torso should be. So that was what I saw. That was January 1st, 7:25 in the morning this year. So I was just glad somebody else saw something that I saw, to kind of like validate that I saw something, you know.
Have you ever gone back to that area, or that was a one-time trip through that area?
That was a one-time trip through the area. I don't know if I could get back to the area. I suppose I could if I just put the GPS on the hotel we stayed at the night of the 31st before we got up the next morning to drive this way, down south. So I could drive that way again. I don't have any desire to see that again. I can't explain what it was. I just call it an entity, but I can't make sense of what I saw crossing the road at that speed and size with no arms and legs. And then looking down that driveway that it entered into and seeing what I saw when I passed. And this was a really run down piece of property. I don't know if somebody lived there or not, but there's a lot of places you drive by in that part of the country that look really run down. So no, I don't want to go back there. No.
But Mississippi is a weird place from what I've talked to other people. I'm not surprised that you had that encounter there for sure. There's something weird about that state that I'm finding out. It's very, very strange. What do you, I'm sure you've thought of this a few times since that January 1st, able to make any sense of what you think it is, or the best you can think it's some sort of entity?
I have thought about it because and you've probably had guests on, or you've heard podcasts where people try and fit what they see into what they know. And I can't fit what I saw with the mass crossing the road, the speed with which this, I'm going to call it an entity, crossed the road was, I mentioned, I believe I blinked at the time when it started crossing the road because I saw it when it was in front of my vehicle. It had already come across the other lane. And my husband saw it the entire way, left to right. And so I know it didn't just manifest in front of our vehicle, that because he saw it go left to right, and I just saw it in front of us going to the right. I just don't understand what it could have been. It doesn't fit into any slot that I can think of in terms of what it might be, which is why I think of it as an entity. I don't know what it could have been. And then when I looked down that driveway and saw those really long, skinny legs, I thought, well, that could have been a person bending over that was very thin with really long legs. And they could have had a shirt tied up around their waist that was red. But I didn't see any upper torso. I just saw legs and that red at the top of what would be the waistband, area of if you were wearing a pair of pants, That was it, just these long, skinny legs with the red above it. And it just doesn't, the two don't make sense to me. And like, I don't know what the possibilities are. Is it an entity that manifested into what I saw? Is it two separate things? I don't know. I mean, what are your thoughts?
It's tricky because you say stonewash blue-gray color, but man, if you had said white, I would have thought, there's a thing that's seen out in California, the Fresno night crawler, And it's also, I believe there's a sighting out in Yosemite National Park as well, but the main one is out in California. But what you described is definitely a little bit different than that for sure. But it just, if I had to think of like anything that's even a little bit close, that's what I might think. But yours just seems like a very unique, there's something going on in Philadelphia, Mississippi area. And if listeners know of any other things that have happened that this sounds familiar to them, I would love to hear about it. If you can email me at bigfootsociety@gmail.com or hit me up on any of my social channels. I'm at a loss for this one, Leslie. I hope we can somehow get some answers for you. But it's a fascinating story, but I'm not really sure what to do with it.
Well, maybe your listeners will have an idea, and maybe they can comment.
Hopefully, yeah.
Get in touch with you, because there's power in knowledge, and you got a community out there that all wants to learn more and have conversations around these things. So, yeah, I would be very interested to hear if anybody else has seen anything similar in terms of entities, or, like I said, that long set of legs with nothing else but the legs. This is pretty shocking, I guess.
Absolutely. Leslie, it's been really fun chatting with you today about your different encounters, and thank you for coming on. If you ever have any other things happen to you as well, feel free to reach out and let me know about it. You've been a really fun guest, very knowledgeable, and your attention to detail is some of the best that I've ever heard. So,
well, thanks, Jeremiah. Thanks for letting me share my story.
Thank you for listening to Bigfoot Society. If you like the show, please review and rate it 5 stars on iTunes. Hit the share button and send this episode to all your friends on social media. Subscribe to Bigfoot Society wherever you listen to podcasts. It doesn't cost a thing. Pick up a Bigfoot Society shirt or enamel pin over on our Etsy page, and people will tell you all about their Bigfoot sightings when you wear it. At least that's what people tell us. That's what happens. If you'd like to become an official member of Bigfoot Society with a membership card, a community of like-minded individuals, and extra content each month, then please consider becoming a supporter of the podcast by going to www.patreon.com/The Bigfoot Society. Thanks for listening.
Strange Familiars is a weekly podcast which explores the weird corners of the world. From Bigfoot and other cryptids to ghosts, UFOs, folklore, and forgotten history. We don't just talk to authors and researchers. We talk to actual witnesses of the paranormal.
As he came in, the power flickered off again. I don't think I had ever been as scared of anything. It flickered back on, and he was right beside me. And he got really close to my face, and he said, "Stay away from things you don't understand."
We don't just talk about haunted places and spooky forests. We go there, and we take the listeners with us.
What? Did you see that? You saw that, right? Did you see something move there? Yeah. A flash. In the dark. Yeah.
Find Strange Familiars wherever you listen to podcasts or at strangefamiliars.com.
92% of households that join Peloton early in the year are still active a year later.
You love cycling.
Peloton actually makes a treadmill, too.
Okay, if you love sprinting.
You could try out a power walk or a scenic hike in Scotland.
Let me just clear my entire schedule.
Hey, we're nothing if not flexible. With classes from 5 minutes to 30, Peloton can fit into any schedule. 92% stick with it. So can you. Try the Peloton Tread risk-free with the 30-day home trial. New members only. Not available in remote locations. See additional terms at onepeloton.com/home-trial.